Hello everyone. Today we are going to discuss about server-side scripting. In our previous videos, we covered client-side scripting, and from now we are moving to the server-side scripting. Before we are going to discuss anything about server-side scripting, we must understand what are all the different operations that we can encounter in real time when we are working on ServiceNow as a developer. There could be a requirement wherein you need to send an integration calls for a particular record, or else you want to respond or generate an events for that particular record, or you would like to have some operation on same record wherein you are comparing the dates, or you would be logging messages for various purposes, or you want to actually update the fields information in that record. Then these are all different various operations that can be performed using the server-side scripting. What are the different options for us to create a server-side scripting or to develop a server-side scripting? There are a lot more options in ServiceNow. For example, we have business rules, we have a script actions, we have a schedule jobs, we have a workflows, or we have a flow designers. There are plenty of options in ServiceNow where we will be creating a server-side scripting. So today we are going to discuss about the business rules. Today we are going to discuss about the business rule. The business rules are unique in a nature where it is binded for a particular record on a particular table. So how we are linking these business rules to a particular record in a table? This is linked on database operations of a particular record. What I mean by database operations is, in ServiceNow, you can create a record. For example, in NeedIt application, you can create a record. What will be happening while you're creating a record? Actually, you're inserting a new record into a database of your ServiceNow application in NeedIt table. For example, you're creating a record in some other table, then you're going to insert a new record in the table in the database of ServiceNow. Next, you're going to update a record. What do you mean by update a record? You already have a record on the table, then you're going to update the record. Let's see, let me create a record here. So I'm creating a record, testing. This is a new record, right? So if you want to do some operation on creating a new record, at the same time, if you want to do some operation on updating a record, for example, right now, I have this information, I want to select legal options, right? I'm going to save this. So I have updated this record right now. Then if you want to delete, if you want to run an operation on deletion of the record, so these type of operations are directly linked to a database, and to perform some operations post this action, we have a business rules. We have a business rules. So if you ask the definition of a business rules are server-side scripts that executes when database records are queried, updated, or inserted, or deleted. So you can write a server-side script when a record gets updated, record get inserted, or record get deleted, right? Then when this business rule should be triggered, I know these operations, we can write a script, but how to trigger this? To trigger this business rules, you can do this based on the database operation. For example, before insert or before update or after insert or before insert, this can be specified when we want to execute the database, when we want to execute this business rules on the database operations. Then on what type of operations this business rules gets executed? Because I can create a record, I can create an NeedIt record by going to an UI of ServiceNow, and I can create this record. And the different way is, I can also create the same record through the web services, through the REST integrations. NeedIt record can be created through the web services, or I can load this NeedIt request from the external application by using the data sources. Will the business rule will come into picture if I'm trying to create this or trying to update this record from various different channels? One channel that we have right now is UI. There is one more channel I'm talking about the REST integration. Then one more channel I'm talking about the data load using the data sources. Will the business rules will be invoked for different channels that we have? Yes, business rule will be invoked. It will not only for the UI interactions on using the ServiceNow platform, whichever different channels that we have that directly impacts or directly creates a record or updates a record or interacts with the database operations on a particular table, this business rules will be invoked. Right. A performance side of it, generally business rules are a bit more optimized in a performance than the client script. How that will be uh, optimized, we will look into with a few examples in later videos, but that's a thing that we would like to understand. Then the next one is, let's go here, open a business rule. The business rule page will be something like this. The business rule page will be something like this, where you have the name, application, table, active and advanced, and when to run an action. So it is not giving all the options on the business rule. This is just the initial load. But if you want to get all the options on the business rule configuration form, you have to click advanced. You have to click on advanced. On click of it, you get the advanced tab and few more options will be updated here. Then what is this name? This name is a name to this business rule, a user-friendly name. This is a free text field. You can give a name to your business rule as per your liking. Then we have to select a table name on which this business rule is going to be invoked or going to be run in the table. So the table name that we are going to give here is NeedIt application. NeedIt application. Right. Then let's go and focus on when to run tab. What is this all options about? As I said, you have this business rules will be executed based on the interactions with the database record. What type of interactions? Whether that record is inserting or updating or deleting or querying. When you want to actually run this, before insert or after insert or async, these two options we will discuss, but let's focus on before. Before insert or before update or before delete. That means that when you are going to create a record and submitting it, then this record going to be created in database. In between, before creating the database record, you want to do some checks, then you will be using the before business rule. And if you want to run a business rule after the record getting saved in the database, okay, database record is saved, then you want to run that business rule. Then what you do here, you are going to select after here, after insert or after update or after delete. If you want to run this business rule when the record is inserted, after inserting, after updating the record, or after deleting the record. If these three operations, this business rule will be executing. But if you select before, what is that means is this business rule gets invoked or executed before insert into the database, before inserting into the database table, before inserting the before updating a record in the database table, or before deleting that record. This is a use of this when to run. Before going a bit more into these topics, let's go and see this diagram, what the ServiceNow is trying to explain to us. So for example, when you're the user, you're trying to, like here the form submission. It could be anything related to updating or inserting a record. This is where we are focusing right now. After form submitted, that means that you are submitting the form. If you run some logic, server-side logic, before that is going to stored in the database or it's going to hit the database, if you want to run some server-side script, then that is a before business rules. That is a before business rule. That means that before insert or before update or before delete, you have some logic. That's a before business rule. But if you have a logic where you want to run this logic after the database update, so this is where you are having an update on database. Post that you want to write a server-side script, then you will be using either after business rule or async business rule. There is a slight difference between after and async business rule, but understand right now, post the database operation, if your business rule needs to be executed, then you will be selecting here after business rule or async business rule. Then what is this display business rule? What is this display business rule here? The display business rule is when you are loading the form, if you want some business rule to be executed to get some information handy for you, then this display business rule will be used in that case. That means that while you're loading the form, loading means you're reading the form, you're reading the data from the table, database table, then you want some operations to be, you want to have some data to be collected available readily, then you are going to use display business rule. But what is this query business rule? This query business rule is important when you have some security, that in a particular table based on the current logged in user, you want to hide few rows on this table, then you are going to write a query business rule. See, this query business rule will be executed. This query business rule will be executed before doing the query to the database table. Before you are going to query this database table, that means that you are altering the number of records or type of records that you want to show or make it available to the particular user. That is a query business rule. We will get into each of the examples so that you will get more clarity about it, but try to understand there are few different types of business rule, that is before, after, async, display, and query business rule. And we discussed about the configuration of each field, and the tab that we discussed as of now is when to run. The next tab that we have is actions. What exactly you can do with the actions tab? In the actions tab, you have three options here. One is set field values, and next one is add message and about action. For example, let's see the set field values. Through the business rule, you want to set few field values on this table for the particular record, the record that this business rule is getting executed. So this business rule gets executed for each record in this table, the record that you're going to work it on. For example, for the current record that I'm working on it, I want to set the short description. I want to set the short description to the NeedIt application human resource request, and I would like to set priority is 2. So if this business rule gets executed, it is automatically setting this field values for this record to short description as NeedIt application human resource request and priority is true. Then add message. This add message, you can have few different types of CSS being applied here, and also you can have a movie type being added, a visual representation is added, but at the end this is all resultant into the text only. It is all resultant to the text only. You can add images, you can add some kind of a clips to this, but through the business rule you can only show the strings or the messages onto the form. For example, hello world. Let's say I want it make it to blue bold, and I want to send this message in this different color code. You can do that. That's about the add message. Then the about action. This about action stops the execution of that particular current execution through this business rule. It aborts the database operation. For example, if you're trying to insert a record, but if you select this about action, that insert operation will be stopped. Or if you're trying to update, if you check on about action, that update operation onto the database table will be aborted. So this abort option will be useful when you have a check and that they didn't met your requirement or met your condition, then you want to run this business rule to abort that action, then this option will be helpful for you. Then the next one we have here is, the next tab here is advanced. If you look at this advanced, let's say I'm going to give a name to this compare dates and save this. So by using action, as of now, we did three things. If you want to abort an operation, we have an option. If you want to set values to the fields, we have an option. If you want to show some messages, we have an option. But what else we can do with this? You can also do a scripting. For few use cases. What are those use cases? Invoking web services, or modifying the fields, or generating the events, or trying to log messages into this system. You can't do that with the normal this actions operation. For that you have to write script for that. Let's go here. Go to the advanced section one more time. Right. You could see the script field here, and you could also see a condition field here. These two fields will be available in the advanced tab of a business rule. What exactly here the condition field here is? For example, To run the script, you have a certain condition. You can place this condition here in this condition field. With that, you are not going to load the unnecessary script into the execution time. That means that you're indirectly improving the performance. If the condition only is satisfied, then the control goes to the script whichever you mention here. In certain cases, we don't mention any condition here. That means that it always returns true. But if you place some condition here, for example, current dot priority equal to 2. If you want to run some script when the current record priority is true, then you will place that condition here. Then what will be happening? The script only gets executed, whichever the script that you placed here only gets executed if the condition returns true. It returns true means that it is a Boolean value. It returns a Boolean value, either true or false. If no condition is placed here, it by default returns true. If it returns false, then the script which you placed in the script tag will not be executed. Then let's go a little bit deep inside this script tag that we have. You have a current, you have a previous. What is current and what is previous? So the current is an object and it represents the current state of the record on which this business rule is getting executed. For example, I want to run the business rule when the record gets inserted. When the record gets inserted, facilities request. Let's copy this, facilities request. So the current will have see this hello world, because I've just created a business rule with the action set as hello world, the message set as hello world. Then we have this. Then the current, let's go what we're discussing here, the current. The current object represents the record as it is the current moment of the script execution. So the current moment, this is the current record, right? For example, I'll have this, what needed as cleaning, what request type is facilities, requested for is system administrator, number is task ends with 269. This is the current state. So if I want to access the number of the current NeedIt application that this business rule running, I would say current.number, because the current will give me the current state of the object in which this business rule is getting executed. Then what is previous? For example, the previous is I've changed the priority from 3 to 4 and save this. The current priority is 2. Okay, I think there is a business rule which is impacting here. Let's go, and I would like to change this to, I don't want to update it. Let's save this. Let's again try to do same operation here. I'm changing the priority of a NeedIt application. I'm changing the priority of NeedIt application from priority 3 to 4 and save it. The previous object in the business rule consists of the changes before this business rule gets executed. What is the changes? What is the previous state of the priority? The previous state of the priority is 3. That means that if I say here in the script, previous dot priority is 4. That means that if I would like to have some validation, or I would like to see what is the previous state of the object on which this business rule is getting executed, then you have that information in previous object. How you can present this? The previous object represents the state of the record before the current changes was made. Before the current changes, what changes I was made? I made the priority from 4. What is the previous value? That is 3. So if you want to get the previous values of the current record, then you will be using the previous object. And the script tag. One more important thing that we would like to understand, the syntax of this, it gives you an immediately invoked functions in a JavaScript. The script tag, it is a function, and this function will be invoked by itself. If this business rule gets executed and the condition returns true, this function gets invoked by itself. You don't need anything to execute this function. In JavaScript, these functions are called self-invoking functions or an immediately invoked function expression. That is called IFEs, immediately invoked functions expressions. Thanks for watching. We will be doing a real-time example in our next video.